Let's optimize your Google Ads account for more clicks and conversions. Timestamps below, along with some other helpful links and resources I'll be referencing throughout this guide. So the first thing we need to do when it comes to optimizing your campaigns is making sure that you can see the information that you need in order to make an informed decision. So jumping into our Google Ads here, the first thing we want to do is we're going to come up here to columns, and then we're going to click on modify columns. And once we do, we're going to be able to change the information that's displayed so that we can get the information that we need. Now, the good news is what we're about to go through doesn't change what's being collected. So just because we didn't choose a column before doesn't mean Google wasn't collecting that information. That's different than when you're setting up your campaign and you forget to do an ad schedule, or you forget to segment your locations and Google just didn't collect that information for you. So don't worry if you're coming back to this later after you've run campaigns for a while. You're not missing out on any data. You're just telling Google, hey, I'd like to see data that you've already collected. Now, the first set of metrics we want to use is going to be performance, clicks, cost, impression, and CTR. Now, these are all going to be selected for you by default. Clicks tells you how many clicks total the campaign has gotten. Cost tells you how much you've spent on the campaign. Impressions tells you how many times your ad appeared. So this is just how many times did someone type in a search and your ad showed up. Then CTR, that's the ratio of what percentage of people clicked on your ad when it showed up. So if you had your 100 impressions and 10 clicks, that'd be a 10% CTR, click-through rate. That means 10% of the people clicked your ad. Finally, we have average cost per click. And so this is the average that you paid for someone clicking. And so that's all we have under performance. Now, conversions is something that you're going to want to add, and I will link up in the cards in the description to a super deep dive video on Google Tag Manager adding conversion tracking to your site. And so that will allow you to actually see what people do on your site, and then that information will come back into Google to help you optimize your campaign. So you can track sales, you can track someone entering a contact form, you could track someone watching a video if that was super important to you. So link in the cards in the description to Google Tag Manager and how to set up all that tracking code. But here we're going to want to select conversions, cost per conversion, and conversion rate. So this is going to tell you how many people took the action you cared about and the percentage of people who clicked and took that action. And then of course, how much did it cost for you to get that sale, to get that lead? And again, link in the cards in the description to Tag Manager that handles all that conversion tracking stuff. Here, we're just gonna add it and it'll be ready to go once you've set that up. So next we have competitive metrics. So we want search impression share, search lost is, and search lost is budget and rank. So this is a little confusing. So these will take a while to get used to. So what search impression share tells us is based upon the total number of times we could have showed up, what percentage of the time did we? And so let's say, for instance, we could have showed up 100 times for our ad, but we only showed up 50 out of those 100 times. Then our search impression share metric is going to be 50% because we only showed up 50% of the time. Now, the reason you didn't get the extra 50 impressions, it could be Google doesn't like your ad. It could be your timing settings, your location. Well, not your location settings. It could be your budget. It could be any number of things. But what this metric tells you is how much room do you have to grow? Because if your impression share is at 90%, that means it doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to get more impressions. You're not going to get more clicks. So try a different campaign. So that's why this is important. Now, search lost is rank. This is going to tell you how many times did you miss out on something because Google didn't like your ad. So this is a good indicator of whether or not you need to work on your ad copy or not. So obviously the higher the percentage here, the worse your ads are performing. And then budget, this tells you what percentage of time did your ad not show up because you just ran out of money. So if, let's say this number is at 30%, this means that you only have you could increase your budget 30 or 40% more, and then increasing your budget wouldn't do anything else. And so the lower your lost is of budget, that means the less room you have to scale and grow. So we'll go ahead and come down to call details. You're going to use this if you're doing anything with phone calls. I'm not, so we'll go ahead and leave that alone. And of course, timestamps below because that can be a little confusing. And our Google Ads playbook actually goes through a super deep dive on what these metrics actually mean and how to actually optimize your campaigns based upon them. So link in the description to that if you want to take a deeper dive. So here, I'm just going to quickly reorder my columns here, and then we can go ahead and save our column set. So I'll click over here to save our column set, and I'm just going to call it search. So that way, when in the future, if I want to see all these columns again, we can just click on columns and click on search. We don't have to go through this process anymore. So I'll go ahead and click on save and apply, and I'll expand. And now you can see all of the columns that we've added. I've just created these campaigns, of course, so everything is 0, but as data comes in, these numbers will start to populate. So I'll go ahead and collapse. And so that does it for what you want to look at the campaign level. Most of your optimization is going to, or at your account level, most of your optimization you're going to want to do inside a specific campaign. So in this particular instance, I'm going to go to Facebook Ads Audit. And this is going to be where we're going to start looking at optimizing our ad groups. Now, before we do anything else, we need to add columns again. So I'll go through this a little quicker because it's pretty much the same process. So I'll click on columns. Under performance, we're going to need to add impressions and CTR. And then we'll come down to conversions, and we'll add conversions, cost per conversion, conversion rate, and you can uncheck conversion value. Most of the time, that's not really going to matter until you're in month like 3 or 4. And then we're going to add some competitive metrics. I recommend the same 3 that we added last time, plus search exact match is. This is just going to tell us the percentage of time when someone typed in the exact keyword that we had in our plan. And so this is going to help you with keyword optimization in the future. I recommend going through Google's help on this one because it is really hard to explain, but I can tell you that you're going to want it because it's going to help you figure out whether or not you're on the right track with your keywords. Because the lower this percentage is, that means you're showing up for a lot of keywords that aren't actually in your ad group, and that can tell you that there's a mismatch between your keywords and what you're showing up for. So we'll go ahead and select call details if call details are important to you. And then I'll come over here, quickly reorder my columns, and then I will just save the column set as search again and save and apply. So now I can come back to columns in any campaign and have these columns ready to go. So I'll go ahead and click on expand here, and you can see all of the columns that we have set up. So now we have our columns. How the heck do you actually optimize your ad groups? And so this is really complicated. There's a lot of if this, then that. And so what I'm going to go through is a general scenario that for 9 out of 10 campaigns that run for the first time, this is going to happen. And this is the first thing that you're going to want to do. So I'm going to jump into our diagram here. Let's say we have a campaign. We have our 5 ad groups. And after the end of 2 weeks, one ad group spent $20, and then the other ad group spent $4 to $2, right? So this is going to be pretty common. You're going to come in here and you're going to go, I spent $20 on one ad group, and then all the other ad groups didn't get any impressions. And so what you're going to have to do is split the campaign. So what you're going to do is you're going to, as an example, let's say Facebook Ads Management Seattle spent $20. And then these ones spent $5. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this entire campaign and you're going to copy it. And then in this original campaign, you'd pause Facebook Ads Agency Seattle and Facebook Ads Management Best because you only spent like $5 or $10, right? And this one spent 20, right? So you want to keep that data. And then in the new campaign, you're going to run that new campaign, but just with these 2 ad groups, so that you can actually start collecting data. And so this budget hog problem is super common. And so when you see that happen, it's totally normal. That's why I recommend starting 1 or 2 weeks with your runtime, and then you start making adjustments. Now that's what you're going to want to do at the ad group level. You're going to want to see which one's spending too much money. You're going to duplicate the campaign, and you're going to allow the ad groups that didn't get much of the budget to run in the new campaign, and your original campaign, you'll just keep optimizing the ad group that sucked up all the budget already, right? And so in this particular instance, this campaign's at $10 per day, right? And so what we would do is once we split them into 2 campaigns, one campaign would be $5 a day, the other campaign would be $5 a day. So we're going to reallocate the budget. We're still only spending 10, but one is at 5, the other's at 5, and that way the ad groups that didn't get the budget the first time round will actually get the budget now. And so I realize that's a little confusing, but that's why we have our Google Ads playbook that goes through this optimization process in super detail, just in case I did a terrible job of explaining how to go through that process. Now, once you've gone through that process, the next thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to look at your ads. So inside of your ad groups, look at your ads. And whether you're rotating indefinitely or you decided to let Google optimize for you, you're going to have an ad that does better than another one. You're going to want to look at click-through rates. So the ads that have the best click-through rate, you're going to want to keep them going. And then the ads that don't have a good click-through rate, just pause them, turn them off. Go select, pause, and then they will stop running. And then all your budget will go to the ad that has a good click-through rate. And then what you want to do is create another ad that's similar to the one that is working really well, and you're going to try and beat it. And then that is literally 60 to 70% of the optimization process is coming back every week or two and writing a new ad, which is why ad copywriting for your campaigns is so vitally important, because after your couple weeks of initial management and testing, all you're going to be doing is trying to improve upon the ad copy that you already have. So link in the description to our Google Ads Copywriter course that will actually help you with that process once you've run ads for a couple of weeks, if not a month or more. But you definitely don't have to stress too much about copywriting when you're just getting started, because you don't really know what works and you haven't gotten into that cycle yet. And so those are the main 2 things that you're going to want to do when it comes to testing your campaigns. Now, one more note before we get into locations, devices, and ad schedules and all that fun stuff. Make sure that you have 1,000 impressions, right? So if your ad has only showed up 5, 10, maybe even 200 times, don't change anything, because you need statistical significance. So you want at least 1,000 impressions on an ad group before you make any changes, and you want at least 100 clicks on an ad before you decide one is better than the other. So you definitely don't want to go into your ad campaign and say, oh, this one got 5 clicks and that one got 10, so the 10 one must be better, right? It's only been 15 clicks. It's too early to tell. So you want at least 100 for one of your ads before you start making decisions. That does it for the basics of optimizing your ad groups and then optimizing your ads. So I'll go ahead and collapse this. Comment below if you have any questions on this process. I read and reply to every single one. So now what we want to do is we actually want to go click on Show More in the left-hand side, and we want to click on Locations, because this is another area that we can optimize. So hopefully during your campaign settings, you follow the advice from this channel and you segmented out your location settings. If you didn't, you're going to have to go do that right now. So we're going to click on Columns here. I'm just going to come here, click on Conversions. I'll reorder my columns, going to save it, and then click Save and Apply, because it's the same process, and then I'll go ahead and expand full screen. So what we're looking at here is a breakdown of impressions, clicks, conversions, based upon all the locations that we're targeting. And so this is why it's so important when it comes to setting up your campaigns that you choose individual segments of the broader area. Because if I had just chosen United States, then I would come in here and I would see one line, United States, cost impression, clicks, click-through rate, and it wouldn't tell me anything else. So that's why it's so important to segment your locations. But if I'd gone and segmented by zip code for the entire United States, I'd have thousands of lines, and then each line would have like one impression, and that wouldn't help very much, right? So there is a way to be too detailed, right? So here we have our states. Now, what you're going to do here on month probably 3, if not 6, it's going to take a while to get this data, right? So month 3 or 6, you're going to come in here, you'll have enough impressions, clicks, maybe some conversions to start making some decisions. Now let's say it's been a couple of weeks, if not a couple months, and we come in here and we find Alaska is just off the charts in terms of clicks and conversions. It's doing super well. But then for some reason, Arizona nobody seems to be clicking at all, or no one seems to be buying. So what we can do in the bid adjustment column here is we can do plus 50% for Alaska and then minus 50% for, let's say, Arizona and California, right? And so what this does is it tells Google, hey, I'm willing to spend more money for people in Alaska because I think that they're going to actually buy my stuff. And I will spend less money on people in California or Arizona because I don't think they're going to buy as much. And that's about as much location optimization as you want to do. Now, depending upon your business, it might make sense to say, you know what, Alaska, Alabama, and Florida are doing so well, I should make their own campaigns just for those states, right? Now, if your offer, product, service doesn't have anything to do with locations, then that might not make sense. But it's just one of those areas where you want to look and say, should I make a campaign just for this location because of how it's performing? Or should I make a campaign just for this location because I think that I can actually make ads specific to that location to increase my cost per click, right? So that's pretty much all you're going to want to do with your locations. Now, the next step is going to be devices. So we can come down here, click on devices, and of course we're going to edit our columns. I'll go way fast this time because you already know what we want to do here. So I'll go ahead and save our column set, save and apply. So we just adding conversions. And so here what you're going to want to do is look at how many clicks and conversions are you getting in the context of the platform. So a common example, you'll come in here and you'll find for some reason tablets aren't converting very well. I don't know why people browsing on tablets don't seem to buy as much stuff, but that might be the case in your particular instance. And so again, in the bid adjustment column, you could say minus 50, minus 75, or if you don't want to show up at all, just put minus 100%. And then your ads will not show on tablets at all or desktop computers or mobile. Now, another situation that's common here is you'll find you'll have a lot of clicks on mobile and then nobody's actually doing what you need them to do. And so in that particular instance, you have two options. Number one, you could just say minus 100% on mobile and forget it. Or number two, you could take this campaign, you could copy it, you could come here and say minus 100 on computers, minus 100 on tablets, and then in your original campaign, minus 100 on mobile, so that you make a new campaign and you're only bidding on mobile, and that way you can start to optimize your ads and the landing page or the pages that you're sending people to specifically on a mobile device. Because sometimes someone browsing on their phone is going to be in a different behavior than someone who's, on their laptop, right? And so sometimes it makes sense to have one campaign for mobile viewers and one campaign for desktop and tablet, right? Most of the time tablet just awkwardly fits in there. But you'll get some data in here and you'll see which one makes the most sense to optimize for. So two more things here when it comes to optimizing your campaign, and this is going to be ad schedule and then calls. And so if we come down here to ad schedule, you can go ahead and actually tell Google the exact days and times of day you want your ads to show up. Now, there is a limit here. You can only make 6 time blocks per day. So if you are picking up the phone or you have people walking into your physical store, then you're going to want to set up 2-hour time blocks between the hours of 7 and whenever you close, or 9 or 10 or whenever you open, right? So that you can actually start to see what hours of the day are people going to most likely click or give you a phone call, fill out a contact form, and of course, make sure that your ads are only running when you're open or when you're actually going to have someone who can pick up the phone. And again, you can only make a total of 6 time blocks per day. So if you wanted to segment out your entire day, you would just do 4-hour time blocks. So you do 12 to 4 a.m., 4 a.m. to 8 a.m., 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., and so on and so forth. And so just keep in mind that you can't just have 1-hour chunks because you can only have 6 per day. So that does it for ad schedule. And then if you are doing phone calls, you can come down here to advanced bid, and we can click on that. And then you can also start making bid adjustments based upon how many phone calls you're getting. And of course, you can look at your phone call conversions as well. And so with that, that's all there is to it, to getting started optimizing your campaigns. Obviously, there is a plethora of other things that you could do here. But when it comes to your first couple of campaigns, your first couple of weeks or months, that's really what you're going to be focusing on. Comment below if you have any questions when it comes to optimizing your campaigns. So I'll just click back into our ad groups, and it's time to wait for the data to roll in. So thank you so much for watching. Sincerely hope you got some value out of this video. Go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dive guides just like this one. Check out that Google Ads playbook. It has a lot of resources in there to help you set up your campaigns as well as optimize them. And until the next, keep building the business you love.